Hello. Today we will be talking about the importance of red mangroves in coral reef ecosystems. Mangroves are an important ecosystem that line 1/4 of our tropical coastlines. They are an important source of fuelwood, shellfish, palms, and flood defense for the surrounding coastal communities. Mangroves act as nurseries for species that will move to the coral reef upon maturation. They are important for coastal protection as their roots trap sediment from the coast and also protect it from erosion of beaches during storms. Coral reef ecosystems also benefit from mangroves because of their ability to trap sediment and prevent sedimentation. Coral reefs and mangroves are dependent upon each other, and the red mangrove, Rhizophora mangle, especially, is the first line of defense against potentially lethal sedimentation of reefs.
Red mangroves are easily distinguished from other mangroves, like the black or white mangrove, by their distinctive prop roots that stem from the central trunk and are visible above the water level. They are most abundant directly adjacent to the shoreline and act as the first line of defense from storms. They can tolerate harsh salinity ranges of 0 to 99 parts per trillion. To cope with these high salinity conditions, Rhizophora mangle excludes the salt in seawater at the root substratum interface. Red mangroves act as nurseries for juvenile fish until they mature and move to a nearby coral reef. They are also important to protect coral reefs from sedimentation by trapping sediment with their roots and keeping it on the beach. Mangroves absorb storm energy during tsunamis and hurricanes to protect the coast and lessen the effects of the storm on the black and white mangrove species. There is a distinct zonation of the different mangrove species. Because of Rhizophora mangle's high tolerance to harsh conditions, it is the closest to the shore, with the black mangrove typically behind it and the white mangrove behind them. Mangroves are used by coastal communities for fisheries, timber, palms, and protection from flooding due to storms. Some communities live within the mangrove forest and depend upon them for shelter. These are just a few reasons mangroves are important.
Coral reefs are important ecosystems because they are one of the most diverse and valuable of all ecosystems. Coral reefs support about 4,000 species of fish, 800 species of hard corals, and many other organisms. The coral reef ecosystem supports more species per unit area than any other marine environment. Loss of coral reef habitat could cause extinction of fish found solely on tropical reefs. Many species found on coral reefs are used in medicines, for cancer, to arthritis, to bacterial infection, etc. Coral reefs also bring in revenue to coastal economies through tourism, fishing, hotel and restaurants built on the waters. Similar to mangroves, coral reefs act as fisheries for local communities. However, corals are home to adult fish while mangroves are home to juvenile fish. Threats to coral reef ecosystems include sea level rise, ocean acidification, predation, tidal immersions, sea temperature rise, and pollution.
Red mangroves and coral reefs have an almost symbiotic relationship, with one more prone to destruction and disease without the other. While red mangroves protect coral reef ecosystems from excessive sedimentation that could severely stress corals to the point of death, coral reefs also slow down wave energy generated by storms to reduce the impact on the red mangroves. Coral reefs are known as coastline barriers, and not only do they protect mangroves, but they protect harbors and the properties that lie within. Storm energy rolls across the coral reef and decreases the speed and intensity of the waves before it makes contact with the shore, reducing damage to red mangroves. Without coral reefs, mangroves in the coast would be subject to severe flooding and erosion. Unique way red mangroves have become important for the coral reef ecosystem is to incorporate corals within the prop roots of red mangroves. Corals typically do not thrive as close to shores as mangroves due to increased salinity and sedimentation. However, with climate change increasing seawater temperature and increasing ocean acidification, the unusual movement of corals to the mangrove habitat may prove most beneficial. Scientists believe that mangroves are providing shade, which lowers the temperature of the water, because while corals are a tropical species, they don't respond well to increase in sea temperature past 27 degrees Celsius. Scientists also believe that waters within the mangrove ecosystem are more filtered from sediment, another advantage for corals. An example of this new movement of corals is in the Bay of Hurricane Hole, St. John. Here the coral grows around and even on the roots of the red mangrove. Around 30 different species of corals have been found in this habitat, 4 of those on the endangered list. Coral reef ecosystems have begun to invade the mangrove ecosystem to escape the effects of global climate change. This is a video of snorkelers in the Bay of Hurricane Hole in St. John. Coral reef ecosystems heavily depend on red mangroves to protect them from increased sedimentation that can be sublethal to lethal to large portions of the coral reef. Protection of mangroves to preserve these coral ecosystems then becomes natural protection for the mangrove by the coral reef. Therefore, coral reef and mangroves have come hand in hand, and one functions much better in conjunction with the other. Using remediation efforts on one side increases the revival of the other, which in turn strengthens the relationship between the two. Also, the protection of mangroves may become more important if the movement of coral to mangrove ecosystems finds to be more suitable for the coral reefs. In any case, both ecosystems are important for their own inhabitants and for each other, and as such must be protected. I want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Swanson, aka Mom and Dad, for being a part of this video and helping me out.